In the oppressive silence of deep space, the desperate beep of a distress signal cuts through the nebula's magnetic storms like a cry in the dark. It's on the bridge of the crippled research vessel Voralis. Captain Nanthera's furrowed brow reflects the flickering emergency lights, her thoughts a maelstrom as fierce as the swirling Atraxian nebula outside her view screen. Each burst of static from the comms is a harsh reminder of their isolation, stranded in an expanse that devours both signals and hope. Elsewhere, light years from the nebula's chaotic beauty, Lieutenant Sarah Chen sits cloistered in her outpost on the fringes of known space. The hum of her equipment provides a comforting, familiar background to her solitary existence, a stark contrast to the pulse of adrenaline that now surges through her as the distress call appears on her console. Her hands steady at the controls, Sarah's resolve crystallizes with swift decisiveness. This signal, a beacon of desperation, cannot go unanswered. Sarah's outpost, a small beacon of humanity's reach into the universe, stands stark against the void. Around her, the tools of her trade blink and whirl, indifferent to the drama unfolding. She's spent countless hours scanning the depths of space, but nothing has prepared her for the emotional tumult of responding to a live distress signal. The weight of the moment settles on her as she acknowledges the reality. She is the Voralis's only hope. With practiced precision, she initiates the launch sequence of her ship, the Swift. The vessel is aptly named, designed for speed and agility, qualities that Sarah will need to navigate the treacherous currents of the Atraxian nebula. As the engines warm, the outpost's bay doors yaw open, revealing the star-studded abyss, beautiful and indifferent to the plights within it. Strapping herself into the pilot's seat, Sarah feels the familiar jolt of acceleration as the Swift slips into the cosmic ocean. The nebula looms ahead, a tempest of colors and energy, hiding dangers that few dare to brave. Sarah's mind races with tactical calculations and trajectories, her training merging seamlessly with her instincts. She knows the risks of a solo rescue in such volatile space, yet the thought of the Voralis crew, alone and vulnerable, propels her forward. As the Swift cuts a path through the darkness, the nebula's vastness envelops her. Inside her cockpit, surrounded by the tools of navigation and survival, Sarah feels a poignant solitude. Her mission is clear, yet the silent expanse echoes with the haunting possibilities of what lies ahead. Each flash of nebular light outside her window is like a specter, both guiding and warning her as she plunges deeper into the void. As the last vestiges of starlight from the outpost's bay doors faded behind her, Lieutenant Sarah Chen navigated the Swift into the swirling mists of the Atraxian nebula. The nebula, a vast canvas of swirling colors, seemed almost alive, pulsating with energy that danced across her ship's hull. Inside, the calm blue light of the cockpit contrasted sharply with the chaos outside, encapsulating Sarah in a bubble of surreal tranquility as she hurtled toward danger. Back at her outpost, the decision to launch into the nebula had been a solitary one. Faced with the cold arithmetic of protocols that advised against such risks, Sarah had wrestled with her conscience. The rules were clear. Evaluate the risk, preserve resources, and avoid unnecessary heroics. Yet, as she replayed the distress signal, a haunting digital cry threaded with static, Sarah's resolve had hardened. The voice in the static wasn't just a call for help, it was a test of her very purpose in the vast, unfeeling expanse of space. As the nebula's gases thickened around her, Sarah adjusted the Swift's trajectory, relying on instincts honed by years of navigating challenging environments. Her fingers moved with practiced ease over the controls, each adjustment a defiance of the nebula's attempts to disorient and mislead. The nebula was notorious among spacefarers, and had claimed many who dared its depths without respect for its power. Magnetic storms, capable of frying even the most shielded electrical systems, roamed the nebula like predators stalking prey. But Sarah's approach was different. She treated the nebula not as an adversary, but as a complex puzzle. The Swift was equipped with an experimental magnetic flux navigator, a device that could predict and react to magnetic anomalies. It was untested in real conditions, and Sarah felt a thrill mixed with a twinge of apprehension as she monitored the device's readings, its screens flickering with streams of data. Meanwhile, aboard the stricken Viralis, Captain Nanthera and her crew struggled against rising despair. Their ship, a marvel of Cytherian engineering, was reduced to a lifeless husk, its systems paralyzed by the nebula's violent embrace. Each passing moment without rescue tightened the noose of inevitability around their mission and their lives. Nanthera gathered her crew in the dim glow of emergency lighting, their faces drawn and anxious as they clung to the hope that their distress call had pierced the nebula's suffocating cloak. "Stay focused," Nanthera urged, her voice a beacon of calm in the creeping dark. "Help may be closer than we think. We must be ready to seize our chance at survival." Back in the Swift, as Sarah plunged deeper into the nebula, the first of the predicted magnetic storms appeared on her navigator. It was larger than expected, a roiling mass of charged particles and electromagnetic winds. With a steadying breath, Sarah engaged the navigator's countermeasures, her ship bucking like a wild animal as it skirted the storm's edge. The cockpit became a symphony of flashing warnings, and the thrum of the ship straining against the celestial forces. Sarah's eyes remained fixed on her instruments, her body tensed for each maneuver. She whispered a mantra to herself, a reminder of the lives depending on her courage and her craft. "Hold steady, Swift. Bring us through." As she cleared the first storm, the Swift emerged into a brief pocket of calm, the nebula's heart now visible as a shimmering field of energy and debris ahead. It was both beautiful and terrifying, a reminder of the nebula's dual nature, creator and destroyer, muse and menace. Sarah's journey into the nebula had just begun, and already the stakes were clear. With each passing second, she was not just navigating space, but also charting the course of her own destiny in the cosmic dance of chaos and order. As Sarah piloted the Swift deeper into the heart of the Atraxian Nebula, the surrounding cosmos transformed into a surreal landscape of undulating energy waves and pulsating light. Each moment inside the nebula was a precarious dance with nature's raw power, her ship a mere speck against the vastness of space, yet a beacon of hope streaking through the dark. The nebula's colors shifted ominously, from tranquil blues to fiery oranges and malevolent purples, mirroring the increasing volatility as Sarah ventured further. The cockpit's instruments flickered intermittently under the strain of electromagnetic interference, each glitch a heartbeat skipped in the quiet solitude of her journey. Back on the Viralis, Captain Nanthara and her crew clung to fading hope. The cold of space seeped into the ship, a creeping chill that numbed fingers but not fears. In the dim, shivering light, the crew huddled together, sharing their warmth and whispered stories of the worlds they hoped to see again. Nanthara, ever the captain, moved among them, her words a soothing balm against the growing despair. "Stay strong," she murmured, touching shoulders, meeting gazes. "Our story isn't over." Meanwhile, Sarah's thoughts were a whirlwind of technical calculations and strategic maneuvers as she navigated through the nebula's most treacherous regions. The Swift's hull groaned under the stress of gravitational eddies and rogue energy bursts, each one a reminder of the nebula's deadly beauty. Suddenly, a violent tremor shook the Swift, stronger than any previous. Sarah's hands flew across the control panel, stabilizing the ship as best she could. The magnetic flux navigator flickered dangerously on the brink of overload. She adjusted the energy dispersal shields, redistributing power to maintain essential systems. "Come on, old girl," she coaxed her ship, her voice steady despite the pounding of her heart. Just a little further. Through sheer skill and determination, Sarah managed to pilot the Swift through the worst of the turbulence. As the ship steadied, she caught her breath, her eyes scanning the readouts. They were close now. The distress signal's origin point was just ahead, a beacon flickering in the chaos. She maneuvered the Swift towards the signal, the nebula's luminous particles swirling like fireflies caught in a breeze around her. As she approached the coordinates, the outline of the Viralis emerged from the mist, a ghost ship adrift in a sea of stars. Its hull bore the scars of its ordeal, pitted and charred, a testament to the crew's battle against the nebula's wrath. With a profound sense of relief mixed with urgency, Sarah initiated the docking protocol. The Swift aligned with the Voralis, magnetic clamps engaging with a solid thud that resonated through the cabin. She was finally here, the isolation of space giving way to the promise of human connection across species and stars. Stepping into her spacesuit, Sarah prepared to board the alien vessel. Her heart raced with the dual thrills of anticipation and apprehension. What would she find aboard the stricken ship? Could she bring them back from the brink? Or had she arrived only to share in their fate? The airlock hissed open, and Sarah stepped through, a lone figure against the backdrop of infinite cosmos, bridging worlds in the silence of space. She was ready to face whatever awaited her on the Voralis, ready to fight for lives that called out across the void. In the cold, echoing passages of the Voralis, her arrival was a flicker of warmth, a sign that the cry for help had pierced the nebula's heart and been answered. The crew, rallying at the sound of her approach, found new strength in the knowledge that they were no longer alone. The airlock door of the Voralis slid open with a slow, mechanical groan, unveiling a corridor bathed in the emergency crimson glow of standby lights. Sarah stepped into the alien vessel, her heart pounding not just from the effort but from the gravity of the moment. Each breath she took filled her lungs with the cold, recycled air of the ship, a stark reminder of the peril the crew faced. The corridor stretched before her, lined with panels of foreign script and softly humming machinery, their functions a mystery yet inherently understood as signs of life support. Sarah's steps were cautious, her senses heightened as she moved deeper into the vessel. Her hand rested on the utility belt, where tools and a translator device lay ready to bridge the gap between human and exotherian. Ahead, the dim lighting opened into a broader chamber, the ship's main assembly area. Here, Captain Nanthara and her crew awaited, their figures silhouetted against the various displays flickering with the life signs of the ship. Nanthara stepped forward as Sarah entered, her posture conveying both authority and immense relief. "Lieutenant Sarah Chen, we are in your debt." Nanthara's voice resonated in the chamber, translated into fluid English by Sarah's device. "I am Captain Nanthara of the Voralis, and these are my crew." Sarah nodded, removing her helmet to show her face, a gesture of trust and respect. "I'm here to help," she replied, her gaze meeting each of the alien crew members. Their appearances varied, some with crystalline skin that shimmered under the emergency lights, others more humanoid, but with the sleek grace of a species evolved under different stars. The crew's biologist, a Cytherian named Zakiel, stepped forward, his voice tinged with urgency. "Our life support systems took heavy damage during the storm. We've managed temporary repairs, but they won't hold long." Sarah followed Zakiel to the engineering bay, her mind already cataloging the equipment she saw, comparing it to her training on interspecies technology. The bay was a hive of makeshift fixes and jury-rigged systems, the air heavy with the scent of ozone and burnt circuitry. "I've got some experience with patchwork repairs," Sarah offered, her hands moving over the alien tech with cautious reverence. "Let's see what we can do together." Over the next several hours, Sarah and the Voralis crew worked side by side. She was quick to learn their technology, guided by Zakiel's expert explanations and her own intuitive understanding of engineering principles. Together they rerouted power, stabilized the life support algorithms, and reinforced the ship's structural integrity, using materials salvaged from less critical sections. As they worked, Sarah learned more about the crew and their mission, a scientific expedition meant to study the nebula's unique properties. Their passion for discovery resonated with her own, and a bond formed, born of shared danger and mutual respect. With the most critical repairs completed, they gathered again in the assembly area. Captain Nanthara regarded Sarah with something akin to awe. "Your skills are matched only by your bravery, Lieutenant Chen. Without you, the Voralis and her crew would surely have been lost." Sarah felt a flush of pride, but her response was pragmatic. "We're not out of the nebula yet, Captain. We should discuss the best route back to more secure space." Together they pored over star charts and navigational data. Sarah pointed out a route that would take them through a less volatile section of the nebula, using the Swift's more robust sensors to guide them. As the meeting adjourned, Sarah's thoughts turned to the journey ahead. The immediate danger had passed, but the nebula was vast and unforgiving. Yet the unity and courage she'd witnessed among the crew of the Viralis gave her hope. Together they had turned despair into hope, and now they would navigate the starry sea as one crew, no longer aliens but comrades. The Voralis's dimly lit assembly area had transformed from a somber conference room into a buzzing hub of collaborative strategy. The charts of the Atraxian Nebula were sprawled across the central table, each route and calculation highlighted under the watchful eyes of both human and Ixetherian crew members. Sarah, with her detailed knowledge of the nebula's lesser-known paths, pointed to a series of coordinates that skirted the densest clusters of electromagnetic turbulence. Captain Nanthera, leaning over the map with a furrowed brow, traced the route with a slender finger, her crystalline skin catching the light with every subtle movement. "This passage here," she mused aloud, her voice a melodic hum, "it's less direct but your data suggest it has the least storm activity." Sarah nodded, her eyes never leaving the map. "It's a longer route, but it avoids the major storm clusters. We'll conserve energy and reduce the risk of running into another surge." The crew gathered around, their expressions a mix of apprehension and determination. The engineer, Zakil, adjusted the settings on his handheld device, syncing it with the Voralis's navigation system. "We've stabilized the life support and power systems for now," he announced. "But navigating through these conditions will put additional strain on our patched systems." Sarah stepped closer, her gaze meeting Zakil's. "Let's run a full diagnostic on all critical systems. We need to know they'll hold, especially the engines and shields." As the crew dispersed to their respective stations, Sarah and Captain Nanthera remained by the map. Their conversation shifted from navigation to the crew's morale. "They're strong," Nanthera said softly, pride evident in her tone. "But they're also scared. We all are." Sarah's reply was gentle, yet firm. "Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the strength to face it. You've kept them alive, Captain. Now, let's get them home." The next hours were a testament to the crew's resilience and Sarah's leadership. The Voralis throbbed with activity as every system was checked and double-checked, repairs were reinforced, and navigation plans were meticulously programmed. Finally, it was time to set the escape plan into motion. The Voralis, with the Swift tethered closely, began its cautious trek through the plotted course. Sarah took the helm of the Swift, her hands steady on the controls, her eyes locked on the sensors that fed live data to her screens. Captain Nanthera's voice crackled through the comm link, a steady presence as they navigated the shifting mists and magnetic fields. The nebula around them was a living canvas, shifting from violent displays of color to haunting stretches of darkness. Sarah's focus remained unyielding. Each anomaly on the sensors met with a calculated adjustment in their trajectory. A sudden alarm blared, slicing through the concentration. A magnetic storm, larger than anticipated, loomed directly in their path. "Diverting course," Sarah announced over the comm, her voice calm despite the rising tension. She expertly maneuvered the Swift, guiding the Voralis along an alternate vector that grazed the storm's outer edges. The ships shuddered as they skirted the storm, the nebula's energy buffeting them like winds in a gale. But Sarah's piloting was flawless, her adjustments precise. Gradually, the storm receded behind them, leaving only the pulsing glow of the nebula to light their way forward. As they cleared the last of the nebula's treacherous grasp, the stars beyond began to brighten, the oppressive cloak of the Atraxian storms falling away. Relief washed over the crew, palpable even through the coldness of space. "We're clear," Sarah finally breathed, a smile breaking over her face. Captain Nanthera's laughter, light and relieved, echoed through the comm. "Lieutenant Chen, I believe I owe you a planet's gratitude." The journey through the nebula was over, but their shared experience had forged something unbreakable. As they set course for the nearest space station, their ships side by side, there was a sense of unity, a bond that had turned a desperate rescue into a testament to interspecies cooperation and sheer human determination. The vast expanse of space, Once a menacing abyss teeming with unseen dangers, now stretched out invitingly before the Voralis, and the swift as they sailed through the cosmos. The nebula, a maelstrom of chaos and beauty that had tested their mettle, lay behind them, a fading storm in the distance. As the ships approached the safety of the Allied Intergalactic Space Station, Captain Nanthara stood beside Lieutenant Sarah Chen on the bridge of the Voralis, both watching the stars that had once seemed dim and distant now shine with welcoming brilliance. The station, a sprawling complex orbiting a peaceful planet, symbolized civilization and safety, a stark contrast to the isolation and peril they had endured. Seeing the station there, "It's almost surreal," Sarah remarked, her voice tinged with relief and a sense of accomplishment. "After everything, it feels like coming home." Nanthara nodded, her crystalline features reflecting the starlight. "Home," she echoed thoughtfully. "I believe home is not just a place, Sarah. It's where you find your kindred spirits. For us, for now, it's right here." Their approach was smooth, the Swift and the Voralis syncing perfectly with the station's guidance systems. Communications from the station crackled through, a chorus of formal welcomes and logistical instructions. But beyond the procedural exchanges, there was a palpable sense of excitement about the return of the Voralis and the human who had dared the nebula to save her newfound friends. The docking procedure was a ballet of precision engineering, the ships aligning with the grace of celestial bodies in orbit. As the airlock sealed with a hiss, signifying the firm connection to the station, the crew of the Voralis prepared to disembark. There was an air of celebration, but also a profound gratitude toward Sarah, who stood quietly among them, no longer an outsider, but a revered ally. The station's officials, along with representatives from various scientific and diplomatic corps, were gathered to greet them. Flashing cameras and floating recording drones captured their first steps back into the communal fold of galactic society. Captain Nanthara, with Sarah by her side, addressed the assembly. "We stand before you as a crew united not by species, but by the shared belief in survival, cooperation, and the pursuit of knowledge," Nanthara announced, her voice amplified across the chamber. "Let this be a testament to what we can achieve when we look beyond our differences and work together." Applause filled the air, resonating through the station's halls. Diplomats and officers from various planets stepped forward to shake hands with Sarah and Nanthara, their gestures warm and their words appreciative. Amidst the formalities, Ambassador Sylvia Knox, representing the Human Galactic Alliance, made her way through the crowd. Her smile was both proud and grateful as she embraced Sarah. "You've not only saved lives today, Lieutenant, you've opened a door to new possibilities between humans and Ixetherians," she said, her eyes gleaming with the promise of future collaborations. Later, as the celebrations wound down, Sarah and Nanthara found themselves gazing out at the stars from a viewing deck on the station. The nebula was visible in the distance, a reminder of their ordeal and triumph. "Captain, do you think we'll ever go back there?" Sarah asked, her tone reflective. Nanthara's laugh was soft, filled with a mix of wonder and resolve. "Perhaps, Lieutenant. The nebula still holds many secrets, and I believe we make a great team." Sarah smiled, her eyes on the horizon. "Then let's make sure our next journey is just as memorable." As the stars twinkled above, signaling the vast adventures that lay ahead, Sarah felt a deep, fulfilling peace. She had ventured into the unknown, not just to save a crew but to forge a bond that transcended worlds.